Hey guys, welcome to another Winemaker Wednesday, and we are out in the vineyard today taking a look at the Chardonnay vineyard that we've been looking at all season. So it's harvest time, it's right around the corner, so I wanted to take one last look at it before we pull the trigger and get this picked and into the winery. So let's take a look. Beautiful looking canopy and trellis system here. They've done a really good job in this vineyard this year, so let's get in here and see what we can see. There we go. There's some Chardonnay. Getting some nice golden color to it, nice and soft. Taste some here. Sweet. Getting close to being harvested. Should be another week or two. Got some good weather. So you might remember last time we were out here, I was talking about the canopy, the leaf system here, and just how they've been managing the irrigation, and how they've got the top of the shoots have stopped growth right at the very top of the wires. So you can see just a few of them poking out across the top, but that's managed really, really nicely with irrigation. No hedging or anything like that needed. So this vineyard is an older vineyard. It's dialed in really well between its vigor and growth and root system in the ground to the canopy and the vine structure above ground. And the vineyard manager is able to, with irrigation, get this to grow up in the spring, but then control the level of water that it's getting to stop all that growth right where that cross arm is. That's where you want it to stop there naturally without having to come through and hedge it and clean it all up. So the short version of all that is this vine and this vineyard is balanced between its crop load and its vegetative growth, or the canopy side of things. So done really well. So as we walk along here, you can see this side of the vine is in the shade. And this is the morning side. So all these grapes and leaves would have had sun on them this morning, and it's in the afternoon now. You can see that by the shadow on the ground there, the sun is flipped over to the other side of the vine, and now this side is the afternoon side where all the sun is at. And you can see the vineyard crew has done a really nice job of getting the balance between sun and shade exposure, so getting that sort of, as they say, dappled sunlight. But you can see, look up close here, so this cluster's got just a little bit of sun poking in on it. These guys here are a little bit more in the sun, but as the sun moves over the sky throughout the day, that sun exposure changes, and so they get more, they get less. Just depends on where they are in the canopy throughout the day, whether they get more or less sun. So this is a really nice setup here. The clusters are just poking through a little bit, not too much, not too little. We looked at a similar sort of setup a couple weeks ago in our Pinot Noir vineyard walk. Same idea, trying to get just that right balance of sun and shade exposure. There's one that's fully in the shade right now. And you come up here, and this guy's got a little bit of sun on him and a little bit of shade. That's just what you want. All right, so if you've ever been out in the vineyard with a winemaker at this time of the year, typical schedule is they're out in the vineyards first thing in the morning. I'm out here a little bit later in the afternoon today. Not ideal, but it still works. But they get out first thing in the morning, go visit all their vineyards, and then they're back to the winery in the afternoon, receiving grapes, crushing, all that stuff. So what are they looking for? What are they doing when they're out in these vineyards in the morning? Well, let's walk along here with me, and I'll show you what we do. Here's the winemaker POV. So I was walking along, taking a look at the canopy, looking for any stress, water stress in the leaves. These guys look really happy. In fact, the irrigation's a little hard to see, but the irrigation's actually on right now, dripping away as it's good. So your manager's keeping an eye on the soil, water levels, moisture levels, that sort of thing. So leaves look in good shape, no water stress there. A few brown leaves here along the bottom, that's to be expected, but we're not seeing the whole set of basal leaves go completely yellow, which would indicate the vine is done with the fruit and better get that harvested and brought in. So we're not seeing that. So the canopy looks in really good shape here. But then you'll see winemakers reaching in, grabbing berries like this and popping them in their mouth, and then spitting them out. And they're tasting. Not tasting wine, they're tasting grapes. Tasting for the sugar level, although we can measure for that as well. But tasting for flavors, for the acidity, for the thickness of the skins. So there's some, whether the skins are getting, are they still crunchy, like a green apple skin, or are they starting to soften and almost get a little slimy, a little gelatinous? Those are all indicators of how soon this vineyard should be picked and should be harvested, because there's no exact right answer. You can run all the chemical analysis that you want, but it's still sort of a seat of the pants winemaker decision at the end of the day as to when this fruit should come in relative to the style of wine that the winemaker is trying to make. So it's still pretty, I don't want to say arbitrary, but it is still very much a little bit of art and a little bit of science, just like all things in wine are. Let's taste a couple of these guys here. Really good. Still not completely sweet yet. The skins are really firm, a little crunchy. There's a little melon and green apple flavor that comes through. Very flavorful, which is great. That's good. We'll get more and more flavor with another week or two of ripening. Just keep walking along here and taste a few more. Reach in. You kind of want to reach from one side to the other. You want to grab some that are in the sun sometimes, others that are in the shade. Just sample enough to get a good idea of what the vineyard is tasting like. And this is just a short walk here. Obviously, if we were doing this in real, for real time, we'd be walking throughout a good chunk of the vineyard to get a much better sampling of how things are looking and tasting within the vineyard. So here's some tucked back in the shade back there. So it's almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon right now. And even though these are in the shade, and because these are in the shade, they're actually still cool. So the juice that's inside these grapes, it's actually still cool from the morning and the evening temperatures. And it won't be until late in the afternoon that these get even more sun, and the juice actually warms up. So it's interesting to taste that. Here's some guys that are in the sun. They're going to be a little bit warmer, and because they're in the sun and warmer, they're going to taste different. So they taste a little less acidic. They're a little bit sweeter, and they have a little bit more Chardonnay flavor, more melon, honey, even green apple characteristics, flavors coming through. So those are tasting pretty good. But this is by my taste, this is another week to 2 away if you want to get a nice flavorful Chardonnay before another week to 2 before we harvest it. So we've got a little ways to go yet. If we walk back the same row, we're on the morning side. Taste a few of these that are really in the shade now. They even taste almost watery a little bit. So the heat and the sun on that afternoon side really has a big impact, whereas these morning side ones just get less overall heat and a little less sun in general, and they taste like it. So these guys in here, yeah, a little more bland, a little more acidic, not quite as much fruit flavor coming through. And that's just one side of the vine to the other, and you're only talking, there's the other side. That's about 18 inches away is the other side of the vine to here. So it's not very much difference, but it's important to taste and sample both sides of the vine so you know what the flavors are, because it's very, very rare that a vineyard would get picked one side versus the other side. most all vineyards, especially in this kind of situation, they would pick the entire row, both sides all at once. So you've got to find out what kind of flavors you're going to get from either side, and be sure that when they're blended together, they're going to make the style of wine that we're after. All right, guys, thanks for joining me on this Winemaker Wednesday as we took a quick little walk through this Chardonnay vineyard. It's always a pleasure to get out in the vineyard. You know, I love the winery and barrel rooms and all that, but being outside, outdoors, walking through beautiful vineyards like this, tasting amazing fruit, this is where the fun really is. So hopefully we'll see you guys soon in the next video. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.